My tribute speech today is going to be on someone very near and dear to me and very near to my heart. It is actually on my grandfather, Lawrence Zumchak. A lot of you obviously do not know who he is, but he was someone who influenced me throughout my whole life. He was the most sweet, loving man that anyone has ever met. He was born on May 6, 1939, to two very loving parents in Elmira, New York, and he just loved school and he loved being around people. He didn't matter if he knew you or not, he would strike up a conversation with you. Like I said, he loved school and he did complete all of his schooling, including 2 years of college, but after that he was asked to join the Navy. He never had been in war before, but right now it was during World War II. He was stationed in San Diego, which was extremely far from his home in New York, and he was incredibly homesick. He was on a very famous ship, which was called the Hornet, and in this ship, it was actually on an episode of Ghost Hunters, which was really cool. I actually watched the episode, and that was one of his favorite things about the ship. My grandpa was always afraid of heights. He was always homesick and he couldn't swim, but they asked him to join the Navy, which we always thought was hilarious. So just to make himself and everyone around him feel more comfortable, because that's what he loved to do, he decided to do something in the Navy that would influence everyone just to feel a little better. He actually was a personal assistant who ordered everyone's supplies and made sure everyone had everything they wanted from home. So no matter that be mail, certain foods, or just comfort that you needed, maybe even counseling, that's what he was there for. Although he wasn't fighting in the Navy, to me, that was really great, because once you're far from home, you definitely need that comfort. That was the main thing that he loved doing, is comforting people and just making them feel better about themselves. He always loved telling me stories about his times in the Navy and all the people he met in Japan and Hong Kong and Hawaii. He even told me about sometimes he would volunteer even though you weren't really supposed to communicate with the enemy. The people that needed help out there, he would offer them food and volunteer work and things like that, just to make them feel a little better and just make them feel safe. Helping people was just his main thing that he loved doing. And after the war, he married my grandma, who actually waited for him. He met her in college, and they had two beautiful children, one being my mom, and they settled in Rochester, New York. After that, he just didn't feel like he had any way to help people anymore, but then he got a job at a very local bank. He worked there for 30 years, and he loved his job so much. He was so proud to help everyone. He actually was a finance manager, and his favorite thing was that he got to help people build their future, get a house, save money, without feeling like they were too stressed out. He used his skills from the Navy to counsel them and to help them out in anything they needed. His favorite thing was that they were living comfortably, and it was all because of him. At the end of his banking career, he actually joined administration and supply ordering, which was what he did in the Navy. He always took his skills from job to job because he knew what he was doing was great and that's what he was best at. The one thing he did is he didn't want people to struggle and just always made sure they were comfortable, like I've mentioned before. After his 30 years at the bank, he just couldn't sit still because that's just how he was. He loved talking to people, helping people, no matter what. Along with helping people, he loved his church very much. So he began volunteering at his church, which eventually turned into a job. So at the age of about 60, 65, he was still working and he didn't care. He would do maintenance on the church buildings, which he always wanted to make sure it was as beautiful as possible. His church was his life, and that's just what he wanted to do. He would fix everything, no questions asked, and half the time he just wouldn't accept money at all. He just wanted to do this because it just made him feel good about himself. What I remember doing the most is every Wednesday when I still lived with him in Rochester, New York, we would walk down a block and a half to the church, and we would help the homeless in the soup kitchen. I always knew he just had so much pride in what he was doing, and it just made him so happy. He always would tell people how much that he cared about them, and if they ever needed anything, he'd be right there every Wednesday for them or whenever they needed him. Along with the church, his family was always number one. My grandma, who actually he met in college, like I mentioned, took a very sad turn at the end of both of their lives. She had Alzheimer's disease. So he unfortunately couldn't help out with the church or anything anymore, and he made her his full-time job. Taking care of her was what he wanted to do. He dedicated all of his time. He didn't care, day, night, whatever. He did whatever he could until, unfortunately, she had to be put into the hospital. After that, he felt helpless, but he was there every day, pretty much sleeping there. We would tell him to go home, but he wouldn't. And he always made sure he communicated with the nurses and doctors and made sure she always had exactly what she needed at all times, because he wasn't able to help anymore. All through that, he never forgot about the rest of his family, including his 4 grandchildren. His favorite hobby, we always said, was talking about us, because he loved talking as it is, and just if he could talk about us, he would do it all day. I always remember when I was younger helping him in the garden, and he would always give me little jobs and make me feel important about what I was doing. My 2 younger cousins, he would never miss either of their basketball or baseball games. Even at the end of his life, he was there no matter what. Every Saturday, he was at their baseball games and cheering them on. My grandpa Larry was a really great man. This is very close to home to me because last week when I wrote this tribute speech, I was actually visiting his hometown and staying with my uncle. So I was in Rochester, New York, and I just thought, what a great time to tribute such a great man in his hometown. I just hope he knows how much he was appreciated and that we loved him very much. And I hope you guys enjoyed what I like to say. Thank you.